Please listen now for the hilarious sketch featuring an impersonation of Candace Owens. Absolutely incredible impersonation of Candace Owens. My God, it was like she was in the room with us right now. Welcome to the show. All right. All right, everybody, back again. Today we're going to be talking about one of the hot topics going on in the world, which is Candace Owens is ableist. Now, I'll be clear here. I'm fine with playing around with. I'm fine with abiding by a certain amount of identity policy etiquette, in terms of the fact that I don't come out and just start criticizing Black people who are talking about Black issues, because that's I don't necessarily know if I have the best perspective on that. So, however, as someone who has worked for a good long time in the disability community, on and off, her recent statements have been pretty upsetting and bullshit. Now, let me give it to you like this. I wanted to find her original video so I could break down that and go over it. However, it appears to be paywalled behind Daily Wire, which means the only way I can see it is off of other lefties reposting it, which I didn't really want to do. So what we're going to do, though, is I'm going to play you a clip from TikTok, and then I'm going to show you her response to the negative backlash that has occurred to her. Her deserved negative backlash, I might add. All right. So first, let's get some context on what she originally said. Now, this is a short clip. I'm sure there was more to it, but we'll give her a chance when we go to how she's responded to everyone getting mad at her, because, you know, she sucks.
I don't really understand how far we're going to take this inclusivity thing. I really don't get it. I don't know. And if I'm wrong, again, educate me. Today, I just want to be educated in the comments. If people that are in wheelchairs were thinking as they were looking around, like, you know what really upsets me? That I've never seen a bra and underwear advertised with a girl in a wheelchair. Why did they do this? I don't know. I don't know why this needed to be done.
Here's the answer to that question of why this needed to be done. Just for context, the ad she's referring to was specifically a brand of underwear designed for accessibility. And what we mean by that is making it easier for people in wheelchairs to get in and out of this underwear, whether it's panties or bras. So when she says, I don't know why this was necessary, it's because she's a dumb bitch. The reason it was necessary is because that's the product they're selling.
Just getting tired of this all inclusivity thing. It seems ridiculous. I mean, we're going to be on crutches and be like, well, how come we don't have a girl that's broken her leg on crutches also in a bra and underwear? I don't feel included. I don't know. I don't think I can buy panties. I just can't buy panties.
Okay, listen. People with disabilities have to put up with a lot of shit, okay? The world is not built for them. In fact, it has been a long, hard road to get things for people with disabilities. You know the curb cuts? You know, when you're walking on the street and they have those little slopes that go down into the street. Did you know we didn't always have those? Did you know up until the 70s, we didn't have those? Literally, what happened was some people with disabilities in wheelchairs went out and started making them. Now, this was considered an act of vandalism at the time. However, the push eventually led to, you know, those being everywhere. And it's not just people with disabilities that benefit from them. People riding bikes, people walking with canes. We all benefit from them, okay? People with disabilities have to put up with a lot of shit. They have to put up with stores they can't go into because the wheelchair doesn't fit, or it doesn't have a ramp or an elevator or anything to let them inside. Anything with stairs and no elevator, they can't participate. They can't enjoy it. And that's bullshit. They are active members of our society, and people are in wheelchairs for many different reasons. In fact, Candace Owens, or any of us, could end up in a wheelchair tomorrow. Would she complain about how easy or hard it is to put on the panties then? But of course, she did no research into this. If she understood that they were specifically underwear for people in wheelchairs, maybe she'd understand the ad. But she doesn't. Or maybe she just doesn't care, because this is an opportunity for her to trump up some fake wokeness points to try and get the left. Now, I want to note at this point in the video, she has said she's open to hearing from people with disabilities in the comments to educate her. I'll probably try and remember to bring that back up when we're watching her response to the backlash.
Because I don't know, I don't feel included. Look, I assumed that people
that is a side note. That also is a bitch ass argument. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. Like, the argument is like, oh no, people are complaining because they don't feel included. Yeah, motherfucker, it's called a society. It's called a society. What do you mean? People are upset because they don't feel included. Yeah, no. Why the fuck do you think people are so fucked up in this society? Okay, I guys, trying to take down the swears, but I'm getting heated now. That's called a society. That is called a society. People who do not feel represented in society will become detached from society, will lose connection with society. Why do you think school shooters happen? Because at some point they become alienated from the world around them. Now, to be fair, a lot of them it's because, I wasn't included in stupid high school shit. And I didn't realize life moves on past high school. But people not feeling included in society is a major issue. And she's making it sound like people who don't feel included are babies. But people who don't feel included in society can't properly add to society. That's the reality. Everyone needs to feel included in society if they're going to participate in society and feel like they have an equal value and stance in society. And people with disabilities, just because they have disabilities doesn't mean that they should not feel represented in society. People with disabilities make up a much larger portion of the population than you think, Candace Owens. And the range of different disabilities is wide. Like, you don't even know. You don't even know, Candace.
that were in wheelchairs also have to buy bras and have to buy underwear. It's just something that I just assumed that was a thing. I didn't know that we needed to see that in our face. I didn't know that now we're going to.
What do you mean, see that in our face? Okay? Like, what does that mean? We don't have to see the disabled people shouldn't be in our face. What the fudge knuckle, you dumb bitch. Okay, what? No one is putting people with disabilities in your face. I'm sorry that people with disabilities existing is something you don't think should be in your face. Did you know in America, we used to have these laws in place where you could actually have people with disabilities arrested for not leaving your store, based on the fact that at one point, the laws in America protected non-disabled people, people with no disabilities, from having to witness people with disabilities. That was a thing. And eventually, people realized that those laws were fucked up and wrong. Okay? What Candace Owens is saying here is that she doesn't want people with disabilities in her face. This acknowledging and welcoming people with disabilities into spaces isn't about you, Candace, and it's not about putting them in your face. Although acknowledging them in society will greatly benefit them, their ability to function, and their mental health. Where I work, there is a constant push, a desire to help these people get into the community, to help people with disabilities be Americans, to work with other Americans, to be in the community. Because there is an awareness in the disability profession that that's real functioning, that separating people with disabilities from society where they can just hang out with other people with disabilities doesn't help them integrate into society. It's a form of segregation. It's a form of segregation that has lasted up and through the 80s. We are only now starting to make these things better. And for Candace Owens to sit here and act like it's some type of encroachment on her that people with disabilities might get in ads for products for people with disabilities is absurd. It's narcissistic. It's ableist as hell. This is indecent. Candace Owens is being indecent. This is an indecent stance to have. Okay?
I have to look forward to campaigns where women that are in wheelchairs are now wearing bras and underwears because we as a society just cannot get to the bottom of our ridiculousness, because that's what it is. We are being ridiculous, America.
No, Candace, what's ridiculous is that you don't understand that people with disabilities need to buy shit. That's ridiculous. Why? What do you lose from this, Candace? What do you lose? What does this take away from you? Why does this even, why does your brain, why does this bother your brain? Or does it bother your brain? Or is this just part of the grift? So what is it, Candace? Do you just hate people with disabilities, or are you just willing to exploit them for your grifting charade against wokeism, which is now a meaningless word? Although woke would apply to people with disabilities under its original term, because the original definition of woke is just to be aware of society's systemic shortcomings.
America, when I see stuff like this, I just go, whose idea was this? Was it your idea?
Good human beings. This was good human beings' idea. This was people who saw a market and had these, like, actually, they don't even need empathy. This is a market, Candace. Like, this is a big thing with the anti-woke thing. The anti-woke thing is conservatives, people who have been bitching at us about the markets for decades, getting up on television and pretending suddenly that markets don't exist. People with disabilities have a certain level of both necessary expenses, underwear is a necessary expense, and also a small amount of expendable cash, which they can use in society. To not advertise or make people with disabilities welcome in our society is to deliberately cut off parts of the market. People want to expand their market because that is the goal of every market. Like, I'm a goddamn democratic socialist, and I'm sitting here talking about markets to conservatives. Because every time they talk about woke, my reaction is, yeah, but that's part of A, freedom of speech, and B, capitalism. Corporations are going to want gay and black and disabled people to buy shit. How do you not understand this?
Idea? Okay, you're fired. I'd like to fire the person who was behind this.
Why? It's a campaign for a product that is specifically for people with disabilities. They did their fucking job. They knew the assignment.
Ridiculous campaign. And by the way, I think people in wheelchairs will back me up on this. I think they're on my side. I think they.
Why would they back you up on this? What? Have you ever talked to a person in a wheelchair? Have you ever spent time with a person in a wheelchair? They go through a lot of trauma based on how excluded from society they can be. You know absolutely nothing, Candace.
They think this is stupid. Let's all just agree today on Tuesday to stop.
Wow. 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 I'm already heated. But let's see her response, because there was a major backlash against her for this. Okay? A major backlash. Because obviously, when she offered to have people educate her, the disability community responded.
You know, we produce a show every single day and we talk about various topics. And sometimes a rare thing happens where you end up in hot water in a situation that you really didn't give much thought to when you were offering a comment on it. So
obviously, she didn't give much thought to it. Like, because a person with a shred of empathy for people in wheelchairs would have known that this take was terrible. Like, terrible. It's a bad take. It's one of the worst takes I've ever heard.
such is the case when weeks ago I did what has really become a regular beat on this show, and I discussed an ad that didn't make any sense to me. It was an ad featuring a woman that was sitting in a wheelchair and she was promoting underwear. So I commented on, this doesn't make any sense. This seems like another DEI initiative. Everybody needs to be included. Everybody needs to see them.
Candace Owens' original claim to fame was suing for discrimination against, was suing her college for discrimination against her for being Black. I think that's worth noting. And then she went on to essentially do what would later become the plot of a South Park season, where she wanted to create a database that would catalog every terrible, nasty thing anyone said online, so that you could track it and keep track of who was saying what terrible, nasty things online. Literally a tool for cancel culture. And then when everyone on the left and the right both agreed that that sounded like a terrible, terrible idea, she backed off of it. And then she became a right-winger. The fact that she doesn't understand why people are mad is indicative of her actually not understanding the problems that people in the disability community face. She just has no idea. And she potentially, probably doesn't care.
Themselves in a space. Again, this was weeks ago. Somehow it got unearthed. I believe that it was due to a Forbes article. And the writer of the...
I used to hate Forbes. In college, I would get Forbes magazines. I have no idea why. Like, I somehow ended up with a subscription I wasn't paying for Forbes, and I just kept sending me Forbes magazine. And it was like they were literally sending me something to piss me off. Because I don't know if you're familiar with Forbes, but in the 90s and early 2000s, Forbes was sort of to the right of center. Now they seem to be a little bit more progressive these days. But in college, when I was reading it, it was a lot of very Republican bullshit. They even had prayers in it, which I'm not opposed to prayers, but it says a lot about your publishing company when you want to put prayers in your magazine that does not purport itself to be religious. But they're a lot more progressive now. So even though I no longer receive that magazine, thank God, props to you, Forbes. And especially, I know you have a pretty good reporter there who talks about disability issues. Props to you for moving more to the center. Good for you, Forbes. You used to be on my shit list. I mean, I'm not a fan of the center necessarily, but it's better you move that way.
The Forbes article, first and foremost, let me read to you her bio. Her name is Keely Cat Wells, and she is the diversity, equity, and inclusion contributor. And her bio says that she is a disability activist and the founder of C Talent.
The point here for Candace Owens is to create a narrative of these being unnecessary ideas, to create a narrative that you don't need diversity, you don't need people helping other people feel included. What she doesn't, of course, the thing about this is that what she doesn't understand is that the reason it's important to fight for things like inclusion is because for a long time, the system has been built on exclusion, especially people with disabilities. You have no idea, Candace, how far things have come for people with disabilities. It used to be, you know what would happen if your kid had really bad ADHD back in the day? Back in the day, I mean, before we knew that that diagnosis existed, do you know what we would do? Do you know what the system said to do? Oh, you would just tell the parents, you're better off putting your kid with ADHD or dyslexia or any number of very treatable conditions today away in a sanitarium and, just forget they ever existed. That was the advice doctors gave to parents when they had kids with disabilities. Even disabilities, like I said, that today aren't even a big deal. That's how far we've come in terms of the inclusion of people with disabilities in society. And there are still ridiculous restrictions in society that are that some are intentionally still part of the system against people with disabilities, and also the general lack of accessibility throughout our society because so many of our goddamn buildings were built before anyone gave a shit about anyone in a wheelchair. Inclusion does matter. Absolutely, it matters. And only a person who is selling this grift will tell you it doesn't. Their world is built on exclusion. Push the people to the margins who aren't fitting whatever it is you want them to fit. You see, they want to paint a picture of what woke is, because the right knows that their governmental policies are trash. The right has basically been doing nothing in government for decades besides literally slowing down any type of progress made by Democrats. While at the same time, making sure the same corporate sons of bitches got their subsidies, but also no legislation got passed, because if it looked like Democrats could pass legislation, it would make Democrats look competent, which would make it harder to gain power against Democrats. So Republicans have spent decades being like, our job here is to make sure the government does nothing, which is a ridiculous thing for a person who works in the government to say. Wokeism, as Candace Owens would put it, is a scam. They want you to think that there's a nefarious conspiracy to somehow ruin America by giving a voice to people who aren't white, who have various types of disabilities or otherly able in some way. They want to shut down the recognition that people with mental illness are human beings. They want to make you think that any marginal group is somehow an attention-seeking parasite, which is weird because Candace Owens is literally a talking head for a job. Her job is literally based on her constantly seeking attention.
Okay, fine. She wrote an article entitled "Disability Rights Advocates Speak Out Against Candace Owens' Harmful Comments on Disability Representation."
As they should. As they should.
And within the article, I'm going to summarize it. They have a woman who was featured in the Skims campaign. She is a disabled model. And she says, quote, "Seeing someone like you matters. Representation matters." They then go on to quote another woman named Paula Carozzo, who is the creator and also a disability rights activist. And she said in this article, quote, "For the disability community, we are at the current peak of representation. Representation for us is as vital as the lungs we need to breathe." Okay.
Because our society consistently tries to push people with disabilities out of our sight. That's what society does to people with disabilities. And I'm not trying to give you like some type of victim narrative, okay? I don't look at the world that way, okay? Everyone in the world has been victimized on some level, okay? And it's important to both acknowledge the victimization, but also for the individual to recognize that they are a survivor. They have survived being victimized. Because that's what everyone really is. We're not victims anymore. Don't think of yourself as a victim. You are a survivor. You have survived being victimized. Here's the thing. I have worked with a lot of people with disabilities, and you have no idea what these people are up against, Candace. You have no idea. I know, I'm not going to name any names because I don't have their permission, but I have met and worked with a number of people, okay, who, when you learn what they've had to go through in life, it's devastating what some of them have to go through, okay? They have been pushed around in society, fed a whole bunch of bad doctoring and bad science. They were subjected to eugenics. We sterilized people with disabilities into the 70s, okay? Into the 70s. That's how long? That's how recently we stopped doing that. We used to keep them in sanitariums in a society that previously had no social safety net. We kept them in prisons designed specifically for the poor. John effing Stossel, a man I generally don't care for, actually did some really good shit way back when, was it in either the late 70s or early 80s, I forget which one, when he did an investigative report into how people with disabilities were being housed and cared for. And what he discovered was horrific. And we as a society continue to shortchange disabilities. Even after the ADA was signed, which gave, in the 90s, gave major rights to people with disabilities and changed the way their treatment would be handled. Even in that bill, there were concessions that were made, things that could have made society much more accessible for people with certain disabilities that they flat out said no to. Do you want to know what one of those was? There was originally the ADA was going to contain the idea that crosswalks would have to have a voice that said what was currently being displayed on the crosswalk. And the American government said no. You know, for blind people, people with disabilities have faced discrimination after discrimination after discrimination. They have had to put up with horrific stigmas. The inventor of the telephone, Alexander Graham Bell, had a deaf wife, and he didn't believe she was really deaf. His whole life, he spent trying to catch her hearing things. That's the type of goddamn stigma these people have to live with.
If representation and seeing yourself in an ad campaign is as important for you as your two working lungs that you need to breathe, that's totally fine. I have some things to say about that.
So here's a fun fact. We generally nowadays, in our progressive mindset, do not care for zoos. There's a lot of ethically questionable things about zoos. However, the one positive to zoos is that zoos give representation to animals. Having zoos actually improves the likelihood that members of society will care about animals that aren't cats and dogs. Let me be clear, I am not comparing any minority group in America to animals in a zoo. However, the point I'm making is that it suggests a psychological trend in human beings, which is the more we see people who are different, or animals that are different, or anything that is different, the more we begin to understand its experience and that it exists. That's an important aspect of representation. Representation is not just to make people with disabilities feel seen for themselves. It's to let them, it's so that the society as a whole can see them. And that improves their standing in society, which is something that people with disabilities need. Candace Owens is trying to make this sound like, ooh, boo-hoo, my feelings, my ego. I wish that more people were like me. That's what she's trying to play it off as. And it's a cheap trick. And it's a gross emotion. It is a gross mischaracterization of why these things are important.
And I'm going to say those things while also later on getting to somebody who actually was much more reasonable in their assessment. First and foremost,
oh no, I can't wait to hear this person's goddamn assessment.
Let's debunk the idea that I am an ableist. I thought that was...
Everything she has said has been ableist. I don't know how she thinks she's going to debunk this right here, but she has shown zero empathy or understanding for people with disabilities. Let's hear her argument. Let's hear it out. Let's see it. What's got?
Really, really interesting that I somehow wanted to pursue disabled people and I wanted them out of spaces, because that is an absolute nonsense, first and foremost.
Literally, she said, why is this in my face? Why is people in wheelchairs in my face? She used the expression, why is this being put in my face? Like it being in the space of goddamn advertising was somehow an affront to her. Bitch, what?
As I said, if you're a listener to the show, you know that I often talk about my pet peeves of ad campaigns where you can no longer see the product that they're advertising for.
They were wearing the underwear. I don't know, like, I haven't heard the whole argument yet, but like, I don't know where she's going already, because it's starting out on a rocky ground, because I've seen the pictures of the ads. They're in their underwear.
So let's put Candace Owens on rewind, talking about that pet peeve months ago. Take a listen.
Cannot stand this. It's a new, I guess, artsy fartsy trend, but like all of a sudden you're buying stuff online and now the models are posed in weird like gymnastics way. Like you're trying to buy a shirt and they're upside down. I think Zara's really guilty of this new trend of models where I can't see what you're wearing. Like I'm online.
You could clearly see in all those videos what those women were wearing. And also, this is not what she was talking about. We just watched the short version of her clip. This is not what she was talking about in that clip. She was specifically trying to use people with disabilities as a prop to attack wokeism and diversity and inclusion. She was deliberately using people with disabilities to do that, because that's what this is, really. This is the grift. She has to present images to her audience that set up the concept of what's wrong. And what she wants you to believe is wrong is wokeism.
Online, I want to buy the shirt. I want to see what the shirt looks like. I don't really care if your model can do the split.
Product isn't for you. This argument is irrelevant.
So please, let's stop this trend. It's really bad. Oh, I guess.
Literally has nothing to do with what she talked about in the other video. Literally nothing. That was never her. That was not the, if that was the argument she thought she was making, then she a dumb bitch. Forgive me for using the term dumb in this context. Because it is a little bit ableist to say dumb. But goddamn, Candace Owens, you are, what she really is disingenuous.
I guess I'm hating on people that are able-bodied and can do the splits and can do back bends, or I'm just...
This is whole shit. Horse shit. Like, this argument she is building is not a sound argument. We watched that clip. This is not the argument she made. She was not talking about how they were wearing the underwear. And there were still pictures. You could clearly see them in the underwear.
Commenting on something that seems really stupid. And as I said, I want to see the product. I want to see the shirt. I want to see the underwear. Why are we doing this? Is this because we're just trying to be more inclusive? Are we trying to be more fun? What is the point of this?
She's trying to make it sound like she was making a different argument, an argument that she, in fact, didn't make.
So again, as I said, I got tons of hate, a lot of comments to sift through.
Of course you did. Of course you did, bitch. What you said was fucking nasty.
Try to summarize the main points, which are very much like this article that was in Forbes. People said, if Candace were in a wheelchair, she would understand why representation and seeing yourself is so important.
Probably. Or she would use it to continue to grift. Because she's already a pick-me. She's already a pick-me. She is already someone who the right can use against a minority group.
So to that, I can only say you must be new here. This is the exact opposite that I speak about. I spent my entire life fighting the idea that in order for me to feel like I'm allowed to be Black or that I'm allowed to be a woman, I need to therefore see Black women everywhere. That is the...
Sued her college for discrimination. I think that was the right thing for her to do. But do you see the hypocritical line I'm drawing here?
The opposite of what it means to actually have confidence. I don't need...
Also, she's pitting her minority status against other people's minority status.
Need to see Tyra Banks being a model. I don't need to see Tyra Banks...
But you did see these things. You saw a lot. Judging by your age, I bet there was a lot more Black representation on television and in movies when you were growing up than when your parents were growing up. Black representation can still be better.
Wearing underwear, which brings me to the second thing people were saying. A woman wrote to me and said, I wanted to be a model growing up, and seeing this woman made me realize that I could be one. Okay, so what you're saying there is that you want to be patronized. You want people to...
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I specifically work with actors with... I have specifically spent a good time of my working in the disability community with specifically actors with disabilities. Actors... People with disabilities want to be able to participate in society. They want to be able to have a talent. They want to be seen. They want to do things. If this woman wants to be a model, that's good. Okay? With this attitude, like the same attitude could be applied to women in the workplace. Oh, you want to work with the men? You know they're just patronizing you. Shut the fuck up. This is a bad art. This is a deeply problematic argument. And once again, the thing that she is doing that is dishonest is she is trying to paint an emotional picture. She is trying to discourage or dismiss this person's emotions by making their emotions seem invalid and dumb.
Essentially hand out participation trophies. You're perhaps not the best person suited for this particular role, but you want people to give it to you anyways. And people are doing that, by the way.
So there's the thing. Okay, she is trying to, oh, you get participation trophy. Oh, you just want it handed to you. No. The idea for representation is not to be handed trophies. The idea for representation is that we as a society understand that there can and should be a place for disabled, for models with disabilities, actors with disabilities, artists with disabilities. There's no reason they can't participate in these things. Once again, I will point out that underwear is specifically for people in wheelchairs. So it would not make sense to hire people for a wheelchair ad that were not people who needed wheelchairs. That would be If anything, that's the participation trophy. You remember the 90s? Man, fuck movies from the 90s. I know, oh, it's a peak cinema. No, it's not. You're only remembering the really good shit, and you're forgetting how much trash there was. You want one of the most obnoxious, goddamn ugly trends that happened from the late 80s through the 90s into the early 2000s, but by the time it was eventually killed by a terrible Sean Penn movie? These fucking actors who don't have disabilities getting Oscars for playing characters with disabilities. Oh, it makes them a great actor to do that. Oh my God. There are people with disabilities out there who want to act. That part is right for them. I guarantee you, somewhere out there, there is a quadriplegic who would love to act in a movie, who could have definitely played Bryan Cranston's part. You think we don't sit around going, oh man, a straight white guy playing a straight white guy? That's not acting. All right, let's hear some more of this bitch out.
We are seeing that all across society. People are becoming complicit. You are seeing marketing firms that are doing more and more of this. We're seeing Victoria's Secret fashion shows with clinically obese people. Why are they doing that? Well,
because there's a market. Because there's a market. Because the world, it has fat people in it. And they want to buy clothes. Do you know where we got the skinny bitch standard of beauty? You know where that came from? It came from World War II. Because of all the rationing and all the working in factories, women got skinny as hell. Which meant that men growing up in that time just saw that as the norm. And then we fucking perpetuated it continuously. When by all standards, many other standards of beauty are based around, you know, having some more fat on your body.
Well, for two reasons. The first is because they want to mark themselves safe from accusations that they're...
Because they want to fill a market. Because they want to sell a product. I'm not saying that capitalism is good. I'm saying that realistically, this is what's happening.
Fat phobic, that they're transphobic, that they're sexist, and that they're racist. So basically every camp.
So Candace Owens is these things. So she needs to point a worldview where being these things is reasonable, and that people who complain about it are not reasonable. That's what she's doing. She's not backing it up with facts. She's backing it up with her opinion, her narrative, and her feelings.
Campaign for anything now needs to look like we need the token black person, we need the token fat person, we need a person that is disabled, we need the trans person to show that we're inclusive and that we're loving. The other...
Okay, so technically, tokenization is something that happens in the world of diversity. And it's not great. However, to use tokenization against the idea of broader, better representation, it's kind of a backwards argument. What are we saying there? Oh, this diversity is weak. Maybe we should just not have diversity. No, you need better diversity, not worse diversity. These people exist in the world and therefore should appear in media.
The reason is because they want to placate the literal mob. There was a mob that decided.
They want you to be afraid. They want you to be afraid that if you have an unpopular opinion, like Candace Owens' opinions, and if you're watching her, you probably have opinions like her. But the thing is her opinions are not based in facts. They're part of a larger overarching narrative to create essentially a culture war. That's the idea here. This is culture war propaganda. That's the real goal here.
set it on me yesterday. A person messaged me, and she even went so far as to say that seeing somebody in a wheelchair in a campaign could quite literally save somebody from suicide. That is a...
Yeah. When you don't feel seen in society, you start to feel like you don't want to live in society.
wildly emotional argument, and I'm going to respond to it.
All her arguments have been emotional so far, by the way. So far, everything has been based on her pet peeves, which on her, it's all narrative and it's all emotions. She's not presented any factual arguments. She has not made any statements. She has not made any real claims. She is feeding you a narrative, hoping that your brain understands what she's feeding into it.
To it in a little bit, but just know that this is how far people were going to say how important it was for underwear campaigns to be inclusive. Now,
when they sell underwear to people with disabilities.
The next point was pointedly hilarious. People were accusing me of not wanting disabled people to wear underwear. Yeah, that's totally it. That's true. Everybody knows that I can't stand that. Everybody knows, in fact, that you have.
I mean, Candace, I mean, that is honestly the most charitable thing we could think you were saying. Because the less charitable is that you don't want to see people with disabilities.
Have to see a model doing something to know that you're allowed to do it. Until I saw a black woman wearing clothes on a billboard, I was naked my whole life. I was just butt naked walking around. Until I saw Tyra Banks wearing clothes on Top Model, I was naked. So thank you, representation matters, because in order for us to have permission to do anything, we must have a model that does it first.
Sarcasm is not a real argument. But sarcasm is a very effective tool to try and make someone else's argument look dumb. Sarcasm is a tool of those who will not emotionally engage.
It's another nonsense. Then things got really strange, and I was receiving, first and foremost, nudes. This is actually something that I was tagged in yesterday. Here we have a woman, and she is wearing a...
This is not nudes. As a fan of nudes, this is not nudes. You can see this in a magazine. You can see this in an underwear catalog. This is not nudes.
Lace black bra, and she is laid up across the bed, and she wrote to me, "Learn to not let this offend you, Candace." Okay? You're going to start sending me nudes?
Yeah, that's fair, actually. That's a fair statement, Candace. Like, why were you offended by this? Why were you offended by this ad? Why did you make this a hill you wanted to die on? Why did you feel this strongly about it? Like, that's a big thing with a lot of conservatives, is a lot of conservatives, like, they spend a lot of energy being upset about shit where it's like, but that's not your life. You don't have to live that life. Why are you mad? You understand that everything on television or in magazines, it's not just for you. Grow the fuck up.
I guess I will learn to not let it offend me or something. And
yes, Candace, we would like it if you were not offended by people with disabilities being in media, because that's ridiculous.
Then we got to a point where there were just open threats, where people were writing to me and doing videos just threatening me. And you can take a listen to one such person and what she had to say.
How far are we going to take this inclusivity thing? I'm going to answer her right now, right here. We're going to take it as far as running you off the internet. We're going to take it so far, we're going to be everywhere to the point that you cannot take it, that you cannot stand being in the internet, because you cannot scroll without seeing us on ads, with our content creation being shared. You're not going to be able to get away with not seeing us. So that is how far we are going to take this inclusivity thing. If you are a person with a disability, I want you to take her words as encouragement to how much more work we still have to get done. Because it's not only going to be skins, it's going to be every single industry. And you're going to be so sick of seeing us, we're going to get the last laugh.
Based. That was sick.
Okay, I don't want to be run off of the internet. If she wants to go.
Okay, let's. I'm gonna break down what that lady just said because I get the feeling that Candace Owens is about to misrepresent it. So what that woman literally threatened to do was just to appear. She was saying that people with disabilities were going to try and make themselves so visible on the internet that Candace Owens will not be able to go on the internet without seeing them. The implication being is that that would run her off the internet. This is not a real threat. This is people laying into her for her bigotry. They didn't threaten her life. And I want to be clear, threatening people's lives, not cool. They didn't even threaten to cancel her, but I'm almost certain that's what she's going to claim that was. They threatened just to make her see them. They threatened her that they would be visible. That's not a real threat. If people want to make themselves more visible, that shouldn't hurt you, Candace. And if it does hurt you, it says a lot more about you than it does about them.
Go be a model. If she wants to wear underwear for a campaign, go for it. It's not that serious. I do.
And yet you made videos about it. It's not that serious, but let me make content about it. It's not that serious, but let me respond to the backlash. It's not that serious, but let me make a counter argument that is the largest segment in this video. All the other segments are dwarfed by the size of this segment.
Want to make a couple of notes, though. First and foremost, it is important for me to tell the world something, irrespective of whether or not you're Black, disabled, or you are fat, whatever the issue is. I want you to know something. Everything is not for you. That's a truth.
Yes, Candace Owens. Not everything is for you. Stop getting upset about shit that isn't for you. Are you seriously making this argument right now?
Nobody wants to tell you guys this. And in a way where everyone's like, I need to be seen everywhere. I need to see myself everywhere. Everything is not meant to be for you. So maybe you are a diabetic.
Yes, Candace Owens. Not everything in society is for you. And advertisements for underwear for people with disabilities is not for you, Candace. Like, the mind-bending dishonesty of this. Holy shit.
And you are watching a commercial for ice cream. Guess what? Maybe that particular commercial, not sugar-free ice cream, maybe it's not for you.
You can't. This is not an honest metaphor, Candace. Comparing. First of all, we do have ads for sugar-free ice cream and sugar-free products. We have ads for sugar-free products all the time. You evil bitch.
Maybe you have no hair. Maybe you're born with a condition. That means that you're not able to grow hair. And you're watching ads for shampoo. Guess what? It's not for you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my, are you serious? Are you serious? First of all, people whose hair is coming out are very insecure about it. Trust me, I know. There are a multitude of products for growing hair for both men and women so that they can continue to use shampoo. It's expensive, so it really only applies to people with money. But these products exist, and there's a market for it. And you really can't compare being balding to having a disability. I mean, arguably, you could say that you're follically challenged, but they're very different because we have pills and creams and solutions and surgeries that correct hair loss. Now, to be fair, there's a minority of people who these are not effective treatments on, and there's a large number of people who can't afford these treatments. But to compare hair loss to disabilities is an absurdity.
For you, I imagine there are short people that are plenty offended by the basketball.
Underwear is for people with disabilities, though. Underwear is for people with disabilities. The part she's not saying out loud here is that she's trying to say that modeling is not for people with disabilities. That's what she's trying to say, and she's not doing it because she's making it sound like the products are the issue. But what she's trying to hide is she doesn't believe that people with disabilities should get to be models, even if it's relevant to their disabilities.
League. In theory, short people could demand to be let into the league. They could tag LeBron James over and over again. They could say, representation matters. And in theory, after
short people would have to be good enough at basketball to get into the league. Not everyone in basketball is a giant, but they have a distinctive advantage. But also, I don't give a shit about sports. By the way, did you know there's a form of basketball for people in wheelchairs? Did you know that, Candace?
After being harassed, one of the team owners could decide to offer a $100 million contract to a man that's just 5'3", and then maybe...
But why would they offer it to him? Is he just have an amazing long shot? Can he jump as high as a tall person? Like, you're creating a scenario that has no context, and you're trying to apply it to other scenarios as if they also didn't have context. But the context is that they were deliberately marketing underwear to people with disabilities. It makes 100% sense to hire models with disabilities to sell underwear to people with disabilities, Candace.
This participation trophy could make other men that are also 5'3" believe that they too can make it to the NBA. But the reality is that an approximate 0% of short men in the world are going to make it into.
What are the requirements for being a model or an actor compared to being the requirements for being in the NBA? They're different. They're very different. Being a model requires there to be something that people want to take pictures of you doing. That's the only requirement. And if they think that they can sell more with a person in a wheelchair or a fat person or a black person or a white person or a gay person or a trans person, if they think that they can use that to sell, corporate America will use it. Not necessarily ethically the best, to be honest, but I don't care because the secondary result is representation. And that is very important to these people. You don't understand what it is to live their lives, to be invisible to society.
To the NBA. An approximate 0% of people that are clinically obese or people that are disabled are going to break into the modeling world and be able to generate the kind of income that Gisele Bundchen and Kyra Gerber can.
No one's saying they're going to break in and make the same money. No one's saying that. In fact, legally, they can't make the same money. Because the government puts restrictions on how much money people with disabilities can earn. Because the taxpayers don't want people with disabilities to get rich. Even if they are working. My family used to take care of a man with Down syndrome. And he worked. And you know what? Every once in a while, he would have to do a spin down. Where he would have to buy something. Or spend money on something expensive for no reason. Other than that because he had a job that paid below minimum wage, he had too much money in his bank account. She has no concept of what these people are dealing with.
And simply because they were born genetically gifted, like LeBron James was born genetically gifted.
Oh, we're getting into eugenics. People with better genes are better people.
So I'll ask the question, isn't it an act of love to encourage people to pursue pathways simply because it makes them feel good? Because representation matters. Let me ask another question. This is a good one. Ready? Do you guys think that Kim Kardashian, the owner of Skims, believes that representation matters? Do you
I don't care, actually. I don't care if she genuinely believes that. Because the benefit to society of what she's doing outweighs whatever her original intent was. I don't care.
Actually believe that Kim Kardashian is making underwear and using models of women that are clinically obese because she wants to be, quote unquote, inclusive, because she believes that the beauty.
Because people, oh my God, what the fuck? Fat people need to buy clothes, Candace. So you got to market to them. There's a lot of fat people in America. Get over it. They're living their lives. Not your problem. It's their choice. Their choices are their choices, and they need to buy clothes too. Also,
standard is shifting, or the beauty standard needs to shift. We are talking
beauty standards shift all the time. All the time.
About a woman that has doctors that routinely edit her face weekly in real life and who refuses to put undoctored photos of herself on the internet.
Yeah, Kim Kardashian is a self-centered dumbass rich person with dumbass rich person brain. There are plenty of studies out there now that show that, you know, rich people are out of their goddamn minds, and that being rich changes the way you look at the world dramatically.
Do you really believe that for her, the beauty standard is shifting? A woman that
I mean, yeah, because the beauty standard kind of did shift with her because she got that booty. Now, to be fair, the booty was coming into. Now, to be fair, the beauty standard of the booty has been coming in since like the mid 90s. But it used to be people didn't mind a chick with a flat booty. But now we're all about the booty.
Allegedly injects herself with semaglutide to become a size 0 virtually overnight. Do you really believe that she wants the beauty standard to be transformed? No, she doesn't.
I mean, it would make her life a lot easier. It would make her life a lot easier from your description here.
I'll tell you what she's doing. She's checking off a box. She's checking off a box and she's making millions of dollars while doing it.
Yes, kind of. Okay, so this is the thing, is that Candace Owens is going to try and use, she's literally pointing to capitalist motivation here. She's not going to say that because she's not going to downplay capitalism. She's pointing to capitalist motivations for things to undermine the moral value of them, which is an argument that I've used for things. However, I don't think anyone really gets hurt here. I think this is all benefit, even if Kim Kardashian's total perspective is selfish.
She's making millions of dollars off of societal emotional instability, which is what we are facing here in the West, in Western society, all across.
She's not going to back that statement up. That's a very empty statement.
Across the board, we are becoming emotionally unstable.
I mean, obviously, we're becoming emotionally unstable, Candace. You fucking went on your show to talk about how mad you were that models were in wheelchairs. Because you see, here's the thing, is that what she's not saying out loud, and she might not even be aware of this, but there is a heavy level of eugenics talk that is currently going on in the right. There's all this discussion of like, what does your biology say about you? But that's the beginning of a eugenics argument. That's beginning to think of the society as a biological hierarchy, which is a step towards eugenics.
A sudden need to be patronized. An overweight model has never inspired Kim Kardashian a day in her life. But
this is a big thing conservatives do a lot of also, is that they will try and tell you how other people are thinking, which is guesswork. It's guesswork. And it allows them to paint a picture that makes other people's motivations seem questionable. If you create your own idea of why a person's doing anything, it allows you to sell your narrative. And it seems reasonable as an argument, but the truth is it's not a real argument because you're making an appeal, information you can't truly have.
The good news, it's a free country. You can continue to keep lining her pockets so that she can continue getting procedures to look nothing like you. You can continue to be mad at Candace Owens for telling you that. As I said, LeBron James hit the genetic lottery. Ben Shapiro is never going to be in the NBA. That's not fair. Representation matters. Here's a question. Why do people aspire to be like Gisele Bündchen and to be like Kendall Jenner rather than aspiring to be like, I don't know, Stephen Hawking? Here's the answer to that question, because vanity and excess.
Note that example. Note that example, Stephen Hawking, that she uses there. I don't know why she's using that. Is it because Stephen Hawking's in a wheelchair? Do you want to know a fun? Here's the other thing, though. Not everyone in a wheelchair can be Stephen Hawking's either. Stephen Hawking's had a lot of opportunities and was clearly capable of learning a lot. Okay, not everyone who's not in a wheelchair can be Stephen Hawking's. This example she's using is horseshit, based on the idea that you're in a wheelchair.
Has become so woven into the American fabric that to some people, it's literally all that matters. That there are people that are feeling suicidal looking at Instagram advertisements represents.
So she's just gonna filter it. She's just gonna filter the disabled experience through her own concept of, oh, what's wrong with people? And it's just, and the thing is, she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know shit. She has no concept of what people with disabilities go through. She has no concept of what it's like to live in a wheelchair. To be told you can't do anything, even though people don't know what you're capable of, because people in wheelchairs are frequently judged before they can even display what their God-given talents are. Just to put you all in a box.
That's almost everything that I believe is wrong with our society today. We are faithless. If you are looking at ads and you are feeling suicidal, it is because you are utterly lacking.
No, it's not looking at ads that makes people with disabilities suicidal. It's feeling as if there's no place for them in society. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. She is an ignorant bitch.
Lacking in spirituality. We've all become empty vessels.
Listen, I'm not going to listen to someone talk about spirituality who's simultaneously handing out eugenics-based theories on hierarchy, who's simultaneously discrediting disabled experience, who has no empathy for people. Okay? You are an asshole.
If your self-worth is being generated from likes and clicks and underwear campaigns and the manufactured hope that you...
Yes, social media can be devastating to your self-esteem and concept of self-worth. Being a content creator is emotionally and mentally draining. That being said, that's not what's happening here. That's not what the representation is about. You are literally trying to build this issue into your own narrative of what's wrong with America, even though it doesn't match the narrative you're trying to make. Gross.
You can be just like Kendall Jenner, then I feel sorry for you, not because you're in a wheelchair.
Kendall Jenner has nothing to do with this. Literally nothing to do with this. People with disabilities have dreams too, you ignorant bitch.
Not because you're clinically obese, but because you need God. That's the truth. This is not a comment.
As someone who works in the disability community, let me tell you right now, a lot of people with disabilities are religious. A lot of them. So, see, this is the thing. She's getting up on her little platform here, and she's being like, the problem with you is you don't have God. Okay, listen, bitch. You specifically said in the previous clip that you wanted people in wheelchairs to educate you. And when people in wheelchairs moved to educate you, what did you do? Oh, you claimed their feelings were invalid, and then you got up on a soapbox and told them they needed God. When I guarantee you, a lot of them already believe in God. Candace Owens, you are a goddamn talking head on television. You are in one of the easiest, laziest jobs there is. You literally have a team of writers and you just have to go on a camera and share your opinions. And I know that's easy because I do that. You ignorant, self-important bitch.
Comment directed solely at disabled people threatening to end me on the internet.
Misconstruing what that woman actually said to her. Once again, I will remind you, when she said they were going to chase her off the internet, they didn't say they were going to come for her. They didn't say they were going to threaten her. They didn't say they were going to hurt her. They didn't even say they were going to cancel her. They said, we will fill the internet with people with disabilities so you can't get away from us. That's what they said. Because let's remember, Candace Owens is the one who was triggered. Candace Owens was the one who came on television to try and use people with disabilities to prop up her worldview. She is not a journalist. She's a thought criminal.
It's a commentary for everyone who aimlessly scrolls on Instagram, looking at ads, hoping to find.
Bitch, you're a content creator. You're part of the system you're criticizing.
God, because that's what it is. You are searching for spiritual fulfillment, and I hope that you find it. Because look around you.
Okay. I actually will say that I do believe that there is a lack in our society that leans towards an emptiness that society feels now that they have, now that that our new God is money and we worship capitalism. Because capitalism ultimately leaves us all empty inside. But she's not going to share that with you. No. Candace Owens is going to get on her soapbox here and make it sound like clearly she's not the one in the wrong. You're the ones who haven't found Jesus yet. She is weaponizing this concept to defend herself. She's trying to turn the argument back around on the people who are rightly calling her out. A lot of people with disabilities, dreams keep them alive. Are all their dreams practical? Maybe not. But who are you to decide that, Candace Owens? Who are you? You're nobody. You are literally fucking nobody.
Our society is broken. People are broken. Please don't be mad at me because I've noticed it.
Yeah, Candace, you're broken as hell. Like, the fact that this is how you want to spend your life, grifting and not listening to people, even though you specifically asked them to educate you. You did that. You said, educate me. And when they did, you said, nah.
Because I've noticed false idols, fleeting emotions, and basic bitch goals, like needing to see your.
Bitch, you the basic bitch. You're the most basic of all the bitches. What the fuck you talking about? You don't understand what it means for people with disabilities to see themselves in society. You don't get it. You flat out don't. You think it's just this weird ego thing. No, it's about people. It's about people with disabilities feeling seen in society. A society that, like I've said a multitude of times now, pushes them to the margins. A society that does not want to see them because it makes them uncomfortable. A society that was not built around them and does not make them feel welcome. Which is what you're doing. You are specifically saying you shouldn't be welcome.
Yourself in an underwear campaign to know that you can wear
an underwear campaign marketed to people with disabilities. You dumb. I'm sorry. I'm going to try and stop calling her a dumb bitch because she's an ignorant bitch.
Underwear. Representation, here you go, ready? Hear me out. Does not matter.
It doesn't matter to you because you're on fucking YouTube, you idiot. You are represented. You get to get your views and your ideas out into the world whenever you want. Of course, you're taking representation for granted, but representation serves multiple purposes in society. It helps us understand people who are different from us. It is essential that we use the media to learn about people who are different and have different life experiences. And if we can't put people with disabilities into the media, then they're going to remain on the margins of society, where people are going to come to bullshit conclusions about them and assume their worth, their value, and their ability. Ignorant hoe.
Contribution does. Actual talent does. Hard work does. Family.
Okay, hold on. Are you saying people with disabilities don't have these things? Are you saying people with disabilities don't work hard? Are you saying people with disabilities can't have talent? Are you saying that people with disabilities can't be beautiful enough to be in ads for underwear that is specifically made to be easier for people in wheelchairs to get on and off?
Does. God does. You're never going to find out what it is that God gifted you with if you're wasting your time demanding to be let into other people's gifts.
No one is demanding anything. No one is demanding anything. You are the one demanding here, Candace. You're the one who made a video where you said, I don't think people with disabilities should be in ads. You did this. You're the one. You're the one putting restrictions in society. You're the one who doesn't get it.
Gifts. In fact, you're ignoring the gifts when you sit back and you envy somebody else.
If people with disabilities aren't given more opportunities, then the people in society will never know what gifts people with disabilities have. Representation for people with disabilities is vital to normalizing and understanding them, to making them parts of our society. Oh, I can only take so much more of this ignorance.
Now, I'll wrap this by throwing attention to one person who actually was rational. She actually answered my question.
I can't wait to hear what this bullshit is.
When I talked about this ad campaign, I said, is there something I'm missing? Please educate me. And a TikTok user named Taylor Lindsay Noel, who's also a wheelchair user, did educate me. In fact, there was something big that I was missing. Take it away, Taylor Lindsay Noel.
Hi, Candace. My name is Taylor. I am a full-time wheelchair user, and since you are asking to be educated, here I am, happy to educate. Everything you just said is completely ableist, and here's why. Skims has created an adaptive clothing line, making it easier for people like myself and with people with accessibility needs.
Holy shit. Candace, this could have been the whole thing. This could have been the whole thing. Oh my God.
To put on underwear, clasp their bras, and also be able to access shapewear that is usually impossible to get on for us. Before you think I'm some angry person in a wheelchair, I've lived my life as an able-bodied person and a disabled person, and when I was able-bodied, I would not say ignorant comments like this.
Thank you.
Fuck you, Candace. Fuck you. That could have been your whole segment. That would have been your whole segment. What was the purpose of this other segment? What was the purpose of all the bullshit you made me sit through? It was nothing. You could have played that, said, oh man, I'm so glad I learned the true nature of this situation that I blew out of proportion and made myself look like a dick, because you are a dick. Instead, you came up with almost, okay, let's see here. Started at 2:13 and it went until about, you came up with almost 13 minutes of defending yourself. 13 minutes of trying to pack in the woke narrative. 13 minutes, almost 13 minutes of shit we didn't need. a humble person, a person with humility, a person with decency, a person who has the Lord in her heart would have just played this clip and said, thank you for clearing that up. I'm so sorry, I didn't understand. That should have been the whole segment. But no. We had to get all that. She did all that. For what? To give you a narrative. To make you think that the people who were calling her out weren't justified. That's why. She wants to paint herself as the victim of woke culture. That's the idea here. This is a grift. She has not offered any solid data. She has not mentioned any objective facts. This entire video has been her feelings. You have to understand that. Candace Owens didn't cite anything. Candace Owens was like, man, this is what I think in my head, man. And that was the whole thing.
Taylor, Lindsay, Noel, I really appreciate you explaining to me that Skims actually developed a unique technology, and that is the reason while they were promoting these ads, because it makes it easier for people that are in wheelchairs to get into a bra and underwear, and that's something to celebrate. It really is. We should always...
Well, then maybe you should have known what the fuck you were talking about.
With technology, be trying to make things easier for people, whether you are disabled, whether you're super tall, and you can't get into super small clothing. All of that is wonderful and all of that is great. That's not about representation. That is actually...
Actually, Candace, it is about representation. Because the reality is that people don't invest in this shit unless they are cognitively aware of the need. Society has to be aware of the need, Candace. Someone had to tell those people this. Someone somewhere's life was touched by knowing someone in a wheelchair, or maybe even a person in a wheelchair, thought this underwear up and made it clear to someone in the fashion industry that it was needed. And you only can get there by people knowing your needs. And people getting good representation in the media breeds empathy. Part of the value of the media is it can open our minds and worldviews to people who don't work like us.
About progress. So I commend you on being one of the only sane voices, even though you did then go on.
There was nothing wrong with that lady who said she was going to run you off the internet. She didn't threaten you. She wasn't violent. And she was right. You were ableist. Side note, the one who you just said was being reasonable also said what you said was ableist.
On and say horrible things about me. Ladies and gentlemen.
Because you suck. Candace, you're a public figure who sucks. Literally, freedom of speech is connected to this. We can go on the internet and say, hey, I think that thing you said was shitty, and that you're being an asshole about it, because it was shitty, and you are being an asshole. Because you're not accepting responsibility. You're not issuing the... Well, what? Hold it. There's still time. There's still time for her to issue an apology. Let's see what happens. So I shouldn't get ahead of myself. I can only judge her on what I've seen so far.
Gentlemen, that is all that I'm going to say about that.
Hold on.
The recent failure, and you can't get into super small clothing, all of that is wonderful and all of that is great. That's not about representation. That is actually about progress. So I commend you on being one of the only sane voices, even though you did then go on.
Progress can't happen without representation, because progress can't happen without knowledge.
And say horrible things about me. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all that I'm going to say about that.
Didn't apologize. Did not apologize. Did not apologize for making the mistake. Didn't accept any responsibility for going on the air without doing any research. She literally, this, oh my God, Candace Owens is, oh my God. She didn't, this is horseshit, Candace. What you did here today is horseshit. This was a horseshit response. It was defensive. You didn't make any real statements. You whined and complained and you pumped it into your narrative, even though your narrative is barely connected. You don't understand the people with disabilities experience. You don't know the right language to talk about it even. You are an ignorant bitch. And I'm just calling it like I see it, Candace. Maybe I should have brought a study that says, oh, Candace Owens a bitch. But I'm sorry, I couldn't take the time to make a study proving that you're a bitch. Candace Owens, this video proves you're a bitch. Because not only were you a complete asshole about it all, not only did you try and make it about you being the victim and not people with disabilities, not only did you not understand the challenges that people with disabilities go through, when people reached out to correct you, apparently your sensitive ego couldn't handle it enough. You could only listen to the nice, polite girl. When she told you something, you could have Googled. You didn't even truly admit you were wrong. Your arrogance is impressive. Your ignorance and/or complete con artistry pisses me off. I'm sorry I've been yelling. I really am. It's more entertaining when I yell. You know, maybe I shouldn't be surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised at all that Candace Owens wasn't planning on taking responsibility. She didn't. She didn't at all. She didn't even try and pass it off as a misunderstanding. She didn't even apologize for the misunderstanding. She didn't even say, oh, I guess we should have done research. Because at the end of the day, Candace Owens is not a journalist. Because those are things journalists have to do, by the way. Find out what's up with things before they open their big ignorant mouths all over the internet. Candace Owens is ableist. Everything she said was ableist. Her arguments defending herself were ableist. Because ultimately, all she proved is she doesn't know anything about the disability experience. She probably doesn't know anyone with a disability. And if she does, I'm even sadder because it means she doesn't know how to connect with that person in her life. She completely invalidated anyone who attempted to talk to her, except for only the most polite people. She tried to make it about people threatening her on the internet. And when she showed a video of that person who was supposedly threatening her, that person wasn't threatening her at all. Literally, she threatened her with freedom of speech. Holy shit. This was pathetic. This was pathetic, Candace. This was pathetic. I'd say I was disappointed in you, but that would imply I respected you before. I don't believe Candace Owens really cares about people with disabilities, because I don't believe that Candace Owens actually thinks about people with disabilities. Literally, she saw an ad on TV with people in disabilities and immediately went, oh, those liberals and their stupid diversity. I'm so mad at them. Always trying to force diversity down our throats. And then you went on the internet without looking into it to scream woke because you are no one. You are a sellout. You are a scammer. You are a grifter. You don't care about anyone or anything but yourself. You're throwing around buzzwords. You're jumping to conclusions. You're not doing research. and you're being a dick about it. You don't accept responsibility, and nor do you act like there's any responsibility that you have to your viewers. And that's disgusting. Because Candace Owens, you are disgusting. Thank you for listening to Ruben Uncut. If you have enjoyed this audio listening experience or video watching experience, depending on where you're absorbing your media, please like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is you do, wherever you're listening. But also please follow on Spotify. Spotify really wants me to get more followers. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's mostly repeats, but at some point there might be some special content there. I don't know. All right. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you now understand how terrible Candace Owens is. Although, probably, if you're listening to me, probably already